Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Agent Psycho, aka ToastSniper98, but you can just call me 2. So, earlier this week on stream, I had a viewer over in my Twitch chat ask me to watch this video called "The Toxic World of Genshin Impact" by Visual Venture, Mr. Visual Venture, and yeah, so I watched it live on stream, and I reacted, obviously, live react Andy to it on stream. So the reason why I'm making this video is so that I could organize my thoughts a little better, because I have a lot to say about this video. And so yeah, the live part of it I think is a little insufficient for my taste, so that's why I'm making this standalone video. The live recorded segment, or the live reaction segment rather, I will make sure to clip out of that stream VOD, and put it up on my YouTube channel here, so that you guys can take a look and watch for yourselves if you'd like to. But this is the more properly organized video, at least I hope so. And yeah, so how I'm going to do things in this video is that I'm not going to actually watch Visual Venture's video here, because I already did it in my live segment, sorry. Because if I actually watch the video again here, it's going to add another like almost 30 minutes to the video, and I'm assuming this video is going to go on for a very long time, because again, I have a lot to say here in this standalone video. Take a shot every time I say the word video, I guess. But yeah, even for this video where I have my thoughts a little better organized, I think, hopefully anyway, I still might miss a couple things, and if I feel I do miss anything, or I did miss anything, I'll come back and like add some more thoughts in like a pinned comment in the future, or something like that. And of course, if there are things that you feel that I didn't address properly from this video, then of course, by all means, please leave comments so that I can try to respond to them. And again, or not again, but I do suggest that you guys watch this video for yourselves first, and then watch the rest of this one. So let's get started. So starting off with the intro here, right here. Again, I'm not gonna play here. You guys can go ahead and watch Visual Venture's video, or watch my live segment, my live react segment, that again I'll be posting on my channel later today, after this one goes live, after this video goes up. So yeah, the intro segment here, basically Mr. Visual Venture talks about, it's basically setting the stage for, it's an intro for the video, so, it gets you acclimated with the whole toxicity atmosphere, or the vibe of Genshin Impact. What I'll say immediately is that a lot of these examples he shows, with like, I think he shows like 4 examples. The first one he starts off with is very beginning, yeah, the clip of this dude saying that there's no purpose to Genshin Impact. The second example he gives is, an article about how some dude's daughter has to deal with a $20,000 credit card bill after his kid spent that much on Genshin, right? The third example, this one is the only one that I would consider toxic. This streamer getting DMs or messages saying that, yeah, he's gotten emails or messages from people saying that, oh, they have literal cancer and they want him to pay for their GAN euros or whatever, right? That's pretty toxic. But all these other examples, and especially this one, this last part of some dude saying that Genshin's an amazing game that he can't recommend to anyone, with the exception of this, right? The dude, some kids on Twitter or whatever, trying to scam people into scam streamers or whatever, guilt trip them into paying for their gacha rolls. None of these other examples are toxicity in and of themselves. Like, where's the toxicity here, right? So I question that already. I feel like there were, I mean, this is Genshin. How can you not come up with other examples for toxicity, right? Surely you could have put in better ones here, because again, the only one that I would really consider toxicity is this one. And hell, I would go so far as to say that this isn't even toxicity. It's just some dude just trying to scam a streamer for a quick buck, or not for a quick buck, but for a quick gacha character. And scams happen all the time, regardless of whether or not they're in Genshin. So yeah, technically speaking, this isn't even hurting any. But these people who are trying to like guilt trip others into paying for their gacha rolls, technically, just in and of itself, that's not really hurting anybody. So again, I don't know if this is truly toxicity or not. Obviously, it's a scummy thing to do, but I suppose the way I think of toxicity, as in like it has to actually pose a threat to someone or like have the potential to hurt somebody. I suppose the potential part does make this, toxicity kind of, but like I consider it to actually be toxic when people fall for it. People fall for the bait, people fall for the scam. They let themselves get guilt tripped into whatever these people's demands are, right? Oh, I have cancer, give me Ganyu, basically. So yeah, this is already a kind of a problem starting off the end. Yeah, this is kind of already a problem. And if this is how we're going to start the video, yeah, I can tell we're off to a great start here. So yeah. Moving on to the first chapter of this video. So this chapter talks about the segment chapter, or the chapter title. Sorry, English is hard for me, clearly. The chapter title is called The Dangers of Genshin, and basically goes over examples of like offline collaborations that Genshin Impact has had, and the oftentimes criminal behavior of fans when fans are involved in these collaboration events, right? These offline collabs. The examples Visual Venture uses are the KFC and Pizza Hut collabs in China, and a bomb threat that a Korean fan or some Korean dude made at an offline Genshin festival in Seoul. So what I want to say about this is that, first of all, these are offline collaborations for an extremely popular IP or franchise or whatever. Like, this happens all the time with other fan bases or other fandoms whenever there are offline events like this. So it's like, what the fuck did you expect, right? Genshin is just another big, game or fandom that wanted to do a cool little collab, and yeah, shit happens. Kind of what happens. I suppose you could say that MiHoYo should have kind of seen these sorts of things coming and organized their events a little better. But I would argue that there's only so much that an event organizer can do to like expect things to go a certain way. Like, shit's always gonna happen, man. So yeah, just like all these the throngs of people who show up, right, posing a public safety hazard or a fire hazard or something like that. I mean, hell, I've gone to Anime Expo for a good decade, for like a decade straight, and like, bro, it's hard to find a year where there wasn't, some incident of the fire department getting involved because there are too many people in one area in like the dealer's hall or something like that, right, posing a fire hazard, and the fire department has to come in and deal with it because they certainly don't want to get their asses sued, or at least not the SPJA or the con management themselves getting sued for, like, in case something bad does happen and people get hurt. They don't want to get their asses sued, so yeah, they have to deal with that. So the whole thing about people getting together, a lot of people getting together post public safety hazards, like, that's not toxic. That's just what happens. So that's out. I write that off immediately. The whole stealing cardboard cutouts, because the chapter does mention like some crazy Genshin fans stealing cardboard cutouts of like some characters that they put on display for some of these collabs. Yeah, I guess that's toxicity. I don't know, man. I have my doubts, because that's not really hurting anybody. It's just some petty crime that I'm sure MiHoYo probably doesn't even care about. Like, how expensive was that cutout, really? They could probably just... I would assume they have a good stock of those cutouts. Well, if somebody takes one, then just replace it. That being said, you shouldn't do that, obviously. I'm not condoning, or I'm not encouraging you to go steal other people's property, even if it's a company's or whatever. But, yeah, like, technically speaking, I don't really consider that toxicity, because who is that exactly hurting? The company? Like MiHoYo? Again, they don't give a fuck. So, it's a little bit of funny humor, at least to me. You shouldn't do it, but like if if that's the worst that happens at an offline collab, like, bro, to me, that's a pretty successful offline collab, man. I would say that went pretty smoothly, considering the potential for other bad shit to happen, which, lo and behold, this chapter goes over when it talks about that one Korean guy, girl, whoever, could be anybody, or could have been anybody, making the bomb threat. Yeah, that's actually toxic. That's the one toxic thing that they went over in this title, or in this chapter, that actually makes sense and deserves to be here, in my opinion. Yeah, making a bomb threat is both bad, it's toxic, and it's harmful. It's a public threat, right? Thankfully, it wasn't real. It just turned out to be a fake bomb threat. But yeah, that's the one actually toxic thing in this whole chapter, and that's the only one. That's the only true example that I think deserves to be here as part of this chapter. The whole like public safety hazard and like people stealing cutouts, like that's not toxic. That's just what happens. You can call me jaded, right? And that I am a jaded motherfucker on the internet, who's seen a lot of this shit happen for a lot of other things and for, worse reasons. But yeah, to me, I'm just gonna say it straight up. The first two things, like the whole public safety hazard and people stealing cutouts of characters, to me, that's not enough to warrant as toxicity. The bomb threat does, however. So that deserves to be here. The other things, not so much. Alright, moving on to chapter 2 about the corrupt sponsorships. I think this is a good freeze frame to put the video on as I talk. So yeah, the second chapter goes over the so-called corrupt sponsorship, specifically the Adventurers Guild collab event on Twitch that ran, I believe, 2 years ago at this point. It's been a while. And I actually did participate in that myself, just for full transparency here. I actually did gift subs in order to get that wing glider, because at the time I actually cared about wing gliders. But yeah, as I mentioned just now, that event was basically a sponsored event where MiHoYo sponsored streamers who signed up for the event to stream Genshin for like 2 weeks or whatever. The terms Tectone leaked, and so if you want to get all the details about or most of the details about that sponsorship, you can go ahead and watch the video for yourself. But yeah, basically it was an event where people could gift subs to participating streamers who were participating in this sponsored event, so that way they can get the Wings of Feasting wing glider, whatever its name was, in game. And the reason why this happened was primarily because of the previous KFC collab, KFC or Pizza Hut, whichever one it was. Because when MiHoYo had that event go on in China, they as a part of the event, they gave away like, maybe not gave away, probably is not the right word here, but you could obtain that special collab only wing glider, right, by going to participate in KFC or Pizza Hut or whatever, and buying a special combo meal like the video says, and get the wing glider, like get a code for the wing glider or whatever. And so obviously, since it was a Chinese only collab event, obviously us foreigners, the overseas player base, couldn't participate at all. So what they ended up doing, at least for the Westerners here, because they partnered with Twitch, obviously, for the Westerners, they had this event where we could get the Wings of Feasting wing glider ourselves too, so we wouldn't miss out. So that's how this event happened in the first place. And so yeah, this video goes into how a lot of Genshin players didn't like this because of the nature of this event, right? Not everybody likes being basically forced to gift subs to streamers. And if you don't know what gifting subs is, it's basically buying subscriptions for a streamer, right? But it doesn't go to yourself, it goes to other people. Normally it's random. I think you can choose if you want to individually gift people, you can, but normally people just kind of gift subs en masse, and Twitch just kind of the system just kind of randomly gifts those subs to anybody in chat that doesn't have one yet, if they don't have one yet, at least. So yeah, understandably, if you're not a big fan of watching streamers, or just watching streams in general, or maybe there's like streamers that you don't really like watching for whatever reason, then yeah, you're not going to have a very high opinion of this sort of event, right? I think a lot of people would just prefer just being able to buy that wing glider just directly. I think a lot of people would be more okay with that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that, you know, they could have done better. MiHoYo, that is, that they could have done better with this sponsored event. It certainly wasn't perfect, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to defend that. However, my main problem with this chapter is that this chapter is specifically titled Corrupt Sponsorships. And as far as I can tell, unless there are just details that this chapter is, like, leaving out, this isn't corrupt. This is not corruption. Nothing about this is, like, illegal or technically dishonest. It's a shitty sponsorship for overall, especially when you go into into further detail about what its terms of service or its the terms for the sponsorship entail, right? As Tectone says in this video, if I can tab over to it wherever Tectone is, so we get to watch, so you guys get to stare at Tectone's face while I talk about this. You know, he goes over it, right? 2-week exclusivity contract. You can't play any other games aside from Genshin. Can't talk bad about Genshin or MiHoYo, blah, blah, blah. Can't get paid, blah, 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 right? Yes, it was a shitty sponsorship. The terms were pretty bad. It was mainly catered for, like, people who mainly stream Genshin to begin with, because, you know, most streamers want to do, like, variety content. Well, not most, but a lot of streamers out there, especially VTubers, want to be able to stream variety as their main source of content, just be able to stream whatever they want. So having to lock themselves in to play Genshin only for 2 weeks is pretty shitty, right? I agree. I will say that. Not only that, but not getting paid anything at all by MiHoYo. That's also, yeah, pretty bad too, especially if they're forcing you to play nothing but Genshin for 2 weeks. Would have been nice if there were, like, some sort of base salary at least, right, to help support streamers. Certainly MiHoYo could have afforded it easily, I would imagine. But the terms of this sponsorship were bad, but they weren't corrupt, right? Because according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, I looked this up earlier before starting to record this video. The Merriam-Webster dictionary online states corruption to be, like, dishonest or illegal behavior. Nothing about this is dishonest or illegal. So how can you call this corrupt? Where's the corruption here? I want to know. Again, like, for the second or third or fourth time, the nature of this sponsorship was pretty trash. I will agree, but that's not the same as being corrupt. So, yeah, like, the title of this chapter is just straight up, like, misleading or just straight up incorrect. It's not a corrupt sponsorship. It was a bad sponsorship, but corrupt means something else entirely here. I will say, however, that this this chapter towards the end does discuss the toxicity that this event did brew. So I do feel that this chapter's content, the nature of this content, what it goes over, does belong in this video because, you know, toxic world of Genshin Impact. So it makes sense. I just don't agree with you know. I don't agree with this title being called Corrupt Sponsorships. To be fair, that's kind of a trivial issue to have compared to a lot of these other issues that I'm gonna have with this video later. But yeah, it's still misleading, which, as I'll explain later in the end, in the end of this video, is the same critique that I have about just the general title of this whole video to begin with, the whole toxic world of Genshin Impact. But again, I'll go over that later. But yes, the fallout from this event, if it is true, because I didn't really pay much attention to, like, the community feedback in regards to this event, but judging by these tweets from Envy here, I'm going to take it, you know, I'm going to assume that this actually happened. And so yeah, I'll give this video the benefit of doubt that, you know, there was actually some significant drama regarding this Twitch event. But yeah, it does belong in the video. However, I don't quite agree with how this chapter was titled. Okay, moving on to chapter 3 of this video, skipping over the cleverly disguised sponsored deal. So here, let's see if we can pull up the freeze frame on Miss Anjali here. Right there. So, this third chapter is titled, well, actually, I don't know if it has a title, because the entire chapter is just title after a sponsor. So yeah, fuck that. I'm just gonna call this title voice actor or VA harassment, voice actor, voice actress, voice talent harassment. And so this chapter, after its sponsor anyway, goes over the toxic behavior that Genshin fans demonstrated towards voice talents like Miss Anjali here, Mr. Zack, who voices Ether, like male traveler in Genshin, and even the Chinese voice actress for Kokomi. Yeah, all the harassment that they gave to voice actors and actresses. Not just these three. I'm sure this happened to other ones as well, because Genshin players are quite well known for this, unfortunately, or I should say, quite infamous for this. Or at least the overseas fan. Actually, no, not just overseas, because again, the Chinese voice actress for Kokomi got harassed too. Yeah, Genshin fans harassing VAs simply for them providing the voices for some of these characters, and nothing else, right? And yes, overall, not even overall, yeah, this is just a classic example, like I mentioned earlier, of Genshin toxicity. For some reason, Genshin fans love shitting on voice actors and voice actresses who have done nothing else but just work on the game, right? We'll have another example come up later in this video. But yeah, it doesn't just happen to VAs like Miss Anjali, Zack Aguilar, and Kokomi's voice actress in China. It also happens to other people other PR people, right? Other people just work on other stuff in the game, as we'll see with Miss Janice's example in like the second to last chapter of this video. But again, we'll get to that later. But yeah, it's just a classic example of how shitty Genshin fans can be whenever they're trying to express their discontent with Genshin Impact. Specifically for Kokomi, because I do think that this was it's interesting, just not for the right reasons. I do want to provide some context for this. In regards to the caption here saying Chinese voice actress Gui Nyang, I don't know how to pronounce Chinese, so forgive me, is facing harassment online for voicing an unpopular 5-star character in the Chinese Gacha game Genshin Impact, blah blah blah. So the context for this is that at the time that Kokomi released, or let's take a step back just to give you guys the full context here. So this character right here, where my cursor is named Kokomi. Watatsumi. I actually don't know her surname. Probably should, given that she's one of my favorite characters in the game. But yeah, Kokomi was an up and coming 5-star character back when we first got the Inazuma chapter of Genshin. It was a third region. It was the first region expansion, or first major region expansion, because technically we got Dragonspine first. But anyways, I'm tangent. So Kokomi plays a big role in Inazuma's story. Like, for those of you Genshin players out there, yeah, Inazuma's story, yeah, Omega lol, but bear with me here. Kokomi was a major character in Inazuma's main storyline. And so naturally, because of that plot related plot relevance, and she's a cute waifu, right, with pink hair, blah blah blah, and she was slated to be a 5-star. Naturally, a lot of people were looking forward to her, right? And if you guys know anything about Genshin, it's that it leaks everything under the sun, right? Anyone can get anything about this game, seemingly. And so yeah, naturally we knew about Kokomi being a character, and so a lot of people were looking forward to being able to pull for Kokomi. However, you have to understand that a lot of Genshin players also care about how strong these characters are, right? And so the expectation was that, she's going to be a yet another limited 5-star character. She's got to be good, right? Well, unfortunately, because leaks also involve character kits, right? What the character abilities, we basically know what characters can do well before they even get introduced, well before they get officially introduced to the game. Or I should say, before people can actually start rolling for them officially on live servers. And unfortunately, we found out that Kokomi seemingly, at first glance, was not very good. the meme at the time was that she was the only character in the game to have this weird passive that, for whatever reason, gave her minus 100% crit rate, which effectively means she's never going to crit. And given Genshin's meta, if you can even call it that, like DPS characters and crit stats were obviously, or still are, extremely important, right? For those of us who like to min-max stats for our characters in Genshin Impact. And so a lot of people saw that, and you immediately were like, what? Why? Right? Why does this one character get negative 100% crit rate? And not only that, but the rest of her kit on paper didn't really seem that good, right? She was just a healer. And you have to understand at the time, at the time, I guess, because Farina kind of changed things. But at the time, the meta didn't really favor healers, because technically speaking, if you wanted to, min-max your damage output, you didn't really want to bring a healer. You just wanted to bring, either DPSs or support buffers, right? Bennett was the exception because his ult not only heals people, but his ult also gives a huge attack buff. The biggest one in the game, in fact, unless there's another character that gives an even bigger one, which could be the case, but again, tangent. But yeah, Kokomi didn't seem to really offer anything that a lot of the community really valued. It seemed like all she could do was heal, and that's it. And she couldn't even crit, so it's like, what is the actual point of Kokomi? Like, why did MiHoYo do this? And so, yeah, not just a lot of players, just around the world. It wasn't just like a Western thing, because clearly, even the Chinese players were upset if they went out of their way to freaking harass this lady, the Chinese voice actress for Kokomi, right? It was like a global issue, if you want to call it that. So yeah, people were pretty upset that this cute waifu that a lot of people were looking forward to would just ended up not being very good, or at least they thought. Personal flex here. I C6 Kokomi on day one anyway, because fuck all y'all. Y'all are fucking retarded. Yeah. Kokomi was even at the time that she was released, when she was finally added to the game proper, like, people misunderstood her. They misunderstood her so badly. It's just that, unfortunately, given the nature of Genshin's community and how big it is and how quickly general community sentiment can spread on social media and Discord and other social media platforms, nobody really gave Kokomi a chance. I'm sure there were some people who actually still tried theory crafting and testing out Kokomi to see what her capabilities are, and lo and behold, we find out that she's the best hydro applicator in the game. And so for permafreeze teams, she was who you wanted. And I don't know about you, but permafreeze teams are pretty strong, because if enemies can't act at all, and you can just do whatever to them, that's pretty good in my opinion. It's not quite the same as, at the time the meta was like, reverse vape, reverse melt teams, but it's like super freeze or permafreeze teams. Like, as long as they allow you to 36-star abyss, that should be it. That should be what's most important. And so Kokomi is still good. It's just she didn't really appeal to what a lot of the hardcore meta community's definition of good was to them, right? Because they always, circle jerk the strongest DPSs, like how much damage can you squeeze out of these teams in order to min-max properly and shit like that. So yeah, naturally, Kokomi was kind of thrown out by the wayside. It's why you see a lot of players these days kind of shitting on, not even just kind of, they're shitting on Zhongli because, oh, he's a straight DPS loss, he's not meta anymore, even though he's still one of the strongest characters in the game. So yeah, that was unfortunate. The true irony, however, with Kokomi is that like a year later, when we get the Sumeru region expansion, which is our 4th region expansion, with Sumeru, MiHoYo also introduced a new element. I think it was our 7th or 8th element. I don't know how many elements we have. Probably 7, because 7 elements. we finally got the much long-awaited Dendro element, because we'd always known Dendro was gonna be like an element in the game. It just took MiHoYo like 2 years to actually work on it and implement it in the game. But yeah, with Sumeru we finally got it. Lo and behold, Kokumi shoots straight up to the top of the tier list, because guess what? The new Dendro element allows for a new set of reactions called Bloom. Bloom and its derivative called Hyper Bloom, where now, long story short, now Hyper Bloom is now one of the strongest teams in the game, as far as like, DPS meta goes. Guess who's one of the best characters to trigger the initial Bloom reaction? That's right, this character, Kokumi. So it's just, this situation is just very fucked up in a very ironic way that, Miss Nyang here had to face harassment, had to get harassed, or ended up getting harassed by Chinese players because, oh, Kokumi bad. And yet a year later, Kokumi is one of the best supports in the game because she's one of the best ones to enable the whole Bloom reaction that then enables the Hyper Bloom reaction that is, at the top of the DPS charts as far as like team compositions go. So yeah, just unfortunate, ironic, but unfortunate. So there's that quick context. Not quick. I probably spent like the last 10 minutes explaining that shit. But yeah, there's that context for you, for those of you who are like want to know specifically about that. I don't know. Not sure who asked, but there you go. I asked. But in any case, a few things that I want to mention here, because I'm not done yet. So obviously these harassment cases against voice actors and actresses, they are toxic. Let's not get that twisted, right? These are examples of toxic behavior that was not warranted at all, right? People shouldn't do this. You shouldn't harass voice actors or actresses for what happens in the video game, right? Because clearly these unless these voice actors or actresses did anything IRL to warrant criticism, like that one, I believe En Tignari's voice actor got in some hot water and they removed his voice and replaced his voice with somebody else. Unless something like that happens, it doesn't seem like anything like that happened with these three. Like these three examples, these three VAs didn't do anything. They just worked on the game. That's it. And yet they still got shit for it. So yeah, that shouldn't happen. You should not do that. That's fucked up. Don't do it. However, as for the video's content itself here, towards the end, as you take a look at Farina's legs, towards the end, Visual Venture goes into, or not him, he uses like a clip or something, of somebody talking about how, the future VAs, right, potential VAs, look at these cases of harassment, and they suddenly don't want to work on Genshin anymore because they just don't want to deal with that. That may be true, but I feel like that's only going to really be true for the more famous and well-known VAs who don't want to work on Genshin because they can afford to work on other projects, right? They don't have to work on Genshin because they're more well-known. They have a more established career, and so they could probably more easily pick up contracts and jobs for other stuff that pay, maybe just as well, or, somewhere around that ballpark. But to say that all VAs will not want to work on Genshin anymore, that's just not true. Because for a fact that there's a lot of up and coming small, like lesser known talents out there, voice actors and actresses who definitely want to make take the next big step in their career. I mean, hell, to be fair, Miss Anjali earlier probably may have been one of those examples. But as unfortunate as what happened with Miss Anjali, now that we have a couple of high-profile instances of Genshin fans harassing VAs, in the future, it's not that other voice actors and actresses aren't going to work with Genshin or work for Genshin. It's just that they're going to be more careful. They're going to know that they're learning this the easy way. They're going to know that this is a thing that can happen, and they need to prepare for it. But a lot of people are still willing to take the risk of getting, demonized by fucking retarded Genshin fans on Twitter or other social media platforms, in order to further get a leg up in their future voice acting careers. So yeah, no, that's just not true. Again, it probably only applies, if at all, to like the more well-known VAs who don't want to risk do want to play things safe, obviously, to keep their career intact. But yeah, Genshin, with how big it is, will never have any shortage of people who are willing to provide their talent, their voice talent, for the game. So yeah. One last thing I can mention here is that I think Visual Venture himself says that he alleges that these cases of harassment towards these VAs is like a symptom of like the overarching relationship between MiHoYo and its fans. What I can say about that is that technically that's not wrong. It's not entirely wrong, but it's also not entirely accurate either. And the reason why I say that is because even if MiHoYo did have a better relationship, or even if there was a better relationship between MiHoYo and its players, things like this will still happen. Maybe they wouldn't happen as often. I doubt that. It's Genshin. Yeah, no, it probably would still happen as often. Actually, no. Sorry, I keep going back and forth. My bad. No, I think I'll commit to it wouldn't happen as often. However, you will still get instances like this, right? Genshin is a wildly popular game. People have very strong feelings about this game. A lot of people are passionate about this game, and unfortunately, that passion can sometimes mutate into, hatred and toxicity and vitriol. But I don't know if so. Because of that, I don't know. Like that, these sorts of things would happen regardless of whether or not MiHoYo had a better relationship with its fans, right? Even if MiHoYo were to run, if we had none of the concerns that we had about Genshin's direction and what, just a general list of problems that Genshin players may have with Genshin, or more specifically MiHoYo's management of the game. Even if that list were shrunk down significantly, or if it didn't exist at all, right? We were, Genshin's a perfect game and MiHoYo is managing it perfectly. You never know when something might happen and nobody's really at fault. And yeah, people will still harass people for the dumbest of reasons. And at that point, can you say that that's a symptom of the relationship between MiHoYo and their fans? No, of course not. So that point here that Visual Venture makes it's like kind of in a gray area. It's not really entirely wrong, but it's also not entirely correct. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Just put my 2 cents on that comment specifically. So do what you will with it. All right, Chapter 2. Not Chapter 2, I think we're on Chapter 4 now. Yeah, Chapter 4, the bubble diaper and other forms of censorship. Nice freeze frame to stop on while I talk about this. So, Chapter 4 of this video discusses examples of censorship in Genshin Impact. The first example that it starts with is underwater censorship in Fontaine, specifically the whole bubble diaper, as you can see there on Bennett. And how it's... I mean, you should already know why that's there, right? To make sure that you can't just upskirt people, both guys and girls, because this is on everybody, not just the girls, but it's on the guys too. Yeah, examples of censorship like the bubble diaper and like chat censorship and whatnot. I believe they go over like chat censorship, right? Chat censorship and like Discord censorship, like censorship on other official social media platforms, blah blah blah. So what I want to say about this is that this is not toxicity. This is just the result of the social-political atmosphere in China. So some of you guys may not like, politics and whatnot, but unfortunately, my take on this, or my take on my political edge to what I'm about to talk about here, is that you're playing a Chinese game. Unfortunately for the rest of us who do, or unfortunately for us who do, you kind of need to understand at least a little bit, have some basic information about what the fuck is going on in China that can at least explain a little bit about why we have to deal with, bullshit like this. Like examples of censorship like the bubble diaper and chat censorship and, Discord censorship and all that stuff. So, again, apologies if you don't like political stuff, but unfortunately, I have to talk about it. So again, these censorship here, in my opinion, is not toxicity. Again, it's just a result of how things are in mainland China. Unless Mr. Visual Venture here is trying to call the CCP toxic, in which case he'd be right, because they are toxic. The worst kind of toxic, to be honest. But that aside, what you have to understand is that MiHoYo is the developer of Genshin Impact. And Genshin Impact, as we all know, is a huge fucking game throughout the world, and especially in China. This means that they are now under the crosshairs of the CCP. Because another thing you have to understand is that the current political atmosphere in mainland China, under the administration of its current, general secretary, or whatever you want to call him, Xi Jinping, their political atmosphere has been slanting left harder and harder and harder throughout his tenure, and especially more so in the past couple of years, ever since COVID hit, basically. And basically throughout the entire time, Xi has been trying to eliminate all potential sources of alternate power in the country, so that way he can make himself the only source of power. He's basically making himself dictator. That's what's going on in mainland China. And so what this entails, at least how this is relevant for MiHoYo, is that this includes bigger companies. Xi Jinping does not like even big companies, because if you have big companies, right, obviously they get big, they get a lot of money. That a lot of money means that they also have a lot of power of their own. And again, Xi Jinping does not want any alternate sources of power, and so he's been trying to target big or he and his administration have been targeting bigger companies to keep them in check, right? To make it so that they don't somehow, or they don't have that potential to become basically competitors, political competitors. Even if the chance seems very low, right? Xi Jinping isn't trying to take any chances here. And so, other examples of big companies that have gotten screwed, basically. For example, remember Jack Ma? He disappeared for, I think, a couple of years. I forget exactly how long. And Jack Ma was the CEO, or the dude who founded Alibaba, I believe. I think it was Alibaba, right? But yeah, Jack Ma was at one time one of the richest men in mainland China, perhaps the richest guy. That's not the case anymore, obviously. But yeah. And then not only Jack Ma, but more recently, and especially more relevant to us as gacha game players, the CCP tried passing that anti-mobile game legislation, right, to try to rein in, to try to limit some of the things that mobile game developers can do for in-game purchases or whatever, daily login stuff like that, whatever it entailed, which ended up failing, and I can explain why. Maybe in another video, but and at the end of the day, it ended up failing. But they tried doing that is the thing, and so those are just two examples of how the CCP's been trying to put a lid on, or either put a lid on, control, or just eliminate other sources of potential power, no matter how unlikely they may be. It sounds counterintuitive, obviously. Why are you trying to purge big companies that can potentially make you money by you taxing them, whatever? But shit's crazy in China, so that's also another completely different topic for possibly another video. Or you can just look it up on your own, geopolitical situations in China right now on YouTube. There are good people to watch if you want to know what's going on, or good channels to watch rather. So at the end of the day, though, what this all means is that MiHoYo, as the head of a huge fucking game that has a lot of freaking players, they have to play it absolutely safe. They have to play it as absolutely safe as possible, so that they don't get fucked by the CCP. They don't get policemen or their version of SWAT teams coming in, fucking breaking into their offices and taking some of their employees away to go have tea with them. Basically, that's a Chinese phrase, apparently, having tea with policemen or whatever. It's basically a colloquial term for that Chinese people use for whenever somebody gets detained by the police and they want to take them in for interrogation, basically. So no tea. They're trying to avoid that. They ain't trying to get their asses having tea with the local popo. So unfortunately, what this means is that they have to mass censor everything. They have to, by playing it, in order to play it absolutely safe, they have to censor anything that might pose a potential risk to their game in terms of like not trying to offend the CCP in any way, right? And unfortunately, this has to expand to even us foreigners, because if, for example, the Chinese players get a hold of like, oh, they're treating they get a hold of like some things that aren't being censored out here in the West, right? Because they even despite the Great Firewall, some of them have VPNs. Some of them can still access the wider internet. Though I think I heard it's getting harder and harder for them to do so though. Anyways, another tangent. Yeah, if they ever find out about it, then they can gather that evidence, post it on Chinese Twitter. I think it's like what, Douyin or whatever. They can post on Bilibili, whatever other popular Chinese social media platform, and they can get MiHoYo potentially into some deep shit. And so, yeah, unfortunately, most things that MiHoYo does in terms of censorship, they have to put it on. They have to blanket all their servers with it. And so, yeah, unfortunately, we're getting fucked for no reason, just because it's a Chinese game. But unfortunately, as long as the CCP still has that sort of hard political edge, this is how it's going to be. So yeah, again, this isn't toxicity. This is what MiHoYo has to do in order to avoid getting absolutely dicked in the ass, right? And this isn't just me being a MiHoYo shill either. Well, actually, I'll let you guys be the judge of that. But like one other thing I can say is that like I think if MiHoYo could get away with it, they don't want to have to deal with this sort of censorship at all. Because remember, for those of you guys who are Genshin players, you guys probably remember that there have been some character designs that had to be censored because they probably didn't go up against they didn't match up with the CCP's like public morale laws or whatever they might have over there, right? Like Ayaka and Miko apparently having like straight up panties, wearing panties as underwear, that you could just literally upskirt them whenever you wanted. What else? Shenhe's navel was originally exposed, but then they had to cover that up with like an underlying fabric of some kind. You can still see it, but you can still see her belly button, but they had to cover it up. Rosaria's tits being nerfed, right? And in Star Rail they had to nerf Topaz's ass, playable Topaz at least. So all these examples of like censorship, right? That if the CCP weren't in power, or if they at the very least they had a much less of a hard ass edge on like trying to uphold public morals or whatever the fuck they're trying to do over there, then yeah, MiHoYo would have gladly tried to get away with things like this, right? And we'd have issues like, oh, MiHoYo is trying to sexualize anime characters and for kids or whatever the fuck people might have issues with in an alternate timeline. But unfortunately, that timeline is not the one that we live in. Unfortunately, the timeline that we live in is where characters have to constantly get censored, and not just characters, obviously, but we have to deal with a whole bunch of censorship in Genshin Impact. Because that's just how it is. It's a Chinese game. And yeah, I do think that if you play a Chinese game, like I said earlier at the beginning, you kind of need to understand this. So this isn't toxicity. This is just how it is. So yeah, hopefully that goes over that chapter adequately enough. All right, moving on to which chapter is this? Is it chapter 5 now? Yeah, chapter 5, the cave hack, or at least this title of the video is called. So I guess that's a good place to freeze frame it as I talk about this. So yeah, chapter 5. This video goes over an infamous bug back when the character Kaveh, a 4-star Sumeru character, was first introduced to the game. And apparently, what people found out. What people found out is that Kaveh had a bug where I don't know exactly how it worked, because I obviously never tried it on my own, and I didn't really look into it too deeply either. But apparently, people could take Kaveh if they had him, go into other people's worlds, and I believe by using his skill, if I'm not mistaken, maybe his ult could do it too. So however it worked, basically, they could use a character named Kaveh to delete entire entities from other people's games. And as the video goes into detail about, it's not temporary, it's permanent. And apparently fixing your game or reinstalling the game entirely even still doesn't fix it. So it's like literally deleting lines of code for good, apparently. And it probably like fucks with the executable of Genshin somehow. I'm not a coder, so I probably don't know what I'm talking about here. But apparently that's what happened. Thankfully, I never experienced that bug firsthand, either by me doing it to other people or having that done to me. So yeah. Again, like the beginning of the video says, if you want to learn more about it, please do some side research after you're done watching this video or something. So yeah, apparently that's the nature of this bug, and I think that's the major thing. Yeah, this is the only thing that this title or this chapter goes over basically. So what I can say about this is that yes, it is toxic, right? Obviously, these are people exploiting a bug to detriment the experience of other players. So yes, it's clearly toxic. And especially the whole deleting shit from your game, like what happens if you delete Catherine from one of your regions, right? Or hell, all of your regions. How are you going to turn in your dailies, right? So yeah, that was fucked up. It was a pretty fucked up bug. However, MiHoYo apparently, like even the video said, like it only took a week for MiHoYo to take notice and come out with a patch for it to fix it, right? And not only that, but they also restored the accounts of everybody who was affected by this bug. So like no harm, no foul, or no lasting harm done. So like this is a good ending, good ending, right? Like to me, it would have been a lot worse. Like truly worthy of being part of this video, considering it's called The Toxic World of Genshin Impact, if like MiHoYo never fixed it. Because I admit this is more of a personal slant here, but I'm personally extremely jaded to like examples of like hacking in video games, right? My personal example is that I played Combat Arms, if you guys remember that game. It was a free-to-play first-person shooter published by Nexon. Yeah, Nexon. Back in the day that I played for like 8 or 9 years. It first came out in like 2008 or something, a long time ago. And so, yeah, like after like the first, I mean, technically hacking has always been part of Combat Arms, man. The years of rampant hacking that the Combat Arms community had to fucking deal with, and Nexon did nothing about, right? It got so bad to the point where, like, during its worst years, like, during, like, I don't know, I think the years, like, maybe 2010, 2011, something like that. I mean, again, there was always hacking no matter like, what year of Combat Arms you played. I mean, except maybe these days, but I don't know how many people play Combat Arms anymore. But in any case, just the amount of hacking was so bad that you could not get into like unmoderated public lobbies without someone coming in and just starting to, you know, fly hack, spin bot, aim bot, trigger bot, whatever the hacks at the time used to be. There were so many hacks, man. Even in game modes like melee only, people would have like rate of fire hacks where they would like be able to melee at a like basically 5-6 times the normal rate of the normal attack speed with melee weapons. And so like basically the moment you got near somebody who was like, you know, knife hacking, yeah, you just died. There was no chance that you had, no chance in hell. And so yeah, like we had all sorts of like fucked up hacks that people did in Combat Arms that, again, you were just subjected to, and through no fault of your own except just playing the game, right? And so, you know, we were forced to play in elite moderated rooms, where basically it's a room where somebody has a item called elite moderator that at the time anyway you could only buy with real cash, or like in-game digital like premium currency basically. Think, you know, Genesis crystals and Genshin Impact. And so yeah, those were the only lobbies that we could maybe safely play play the game in, because if there were a hacker, then we had somebody who could ban them immediately, or who had the power to. And even then, that wasn't a great solution, or not the best solution, because again, as you might imagine, somebody with that kind of power can just ban anybody they want, and just accuse anybody of hacking, just ban anybody they want, or kick out anybody from that room that they wanted to. So yeah, just as somebody who's dealt with years of fucking developer negligence, developer and publisher negligence, the fact that MiHoYo only took a week to fix this bug. To be fair, this bug was really bad, right? Deleting shit entirely that you can't fix on your own. Yeah, the nature of this bug was probably worse than like the Combat Arms hacks, or a lot of the hacks that I've had to deal with, in my video gaming history, if I can say that. But the time that it took for MiHoYo to respond and like do something about it and ended up fixing it, like, to me, it's like, to me, it's almost like there was no toxicity at all. Almost. Again, it's still, I'm not trying to downplay it here. Oh no, I am downplaying it. Fuck it, dude. I am downplaying this shit. It was toxic, but it could have been a lot worse, is what I want to say. So yes, this example still does deserve to be part of this video. It's just that I do feel that, because it ends on a good ending, it's like, it feels kind of weird to include in a video like this, because like toxicity is supposed to have like a lasting impact, right? Like maybe if Genshin had a history of being riddled with bugs and similar hacks like these, where players are constantly going around hacking the game itself and like trying to ruin other people's experiences with it, then sure, I think this Kaveh bug or hack, whatever you want to call it, would have made more sense. It would have been more appropriate. But just as a standalone example to include in this video, it feels kind of weird. But I'm not gonna say that it doesn't belong here, because it still does. I just feel like there could have been a better example, a more impactful example of Genshin toxicity to have included here, personally. But again, that's a more biased analysis of that, admittedly. So I'll leave that up to you guys to I'll leave that up to you guys to decide on how you feel about that. Alright, our next chapter is about the lawsuits. Oh boy, the real fun stuff. Alright, this is probably a good freeze frame as I talk about this. So, this is actually 2 chapters, chapter 6 and 7 of the video. I kind of wonder why there was no break here. There probably was meant to be. Visual Venture probably just forgot to make an individual chapter for this, or include the chapter for this, I guess. But yeah, it's chapter 6 and 7. I'll just combine them because they are, to be fair, like very related topics. So yeah, the things that this video goes over are MiHoYo suing beta leakers or NDA breachers. They get data breached themselves, or people constantly data breach MiHoYo apparently, and then a not safe for work artist by the name of Shirakami, who actually knew his work because, as someone who plays 10 gacha games, I do like my not safe for work content, so yeah, I was familiar with Shirakami, and yeah, I kind of know what happened to him, and yeah, that was very sad, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, basically Shirakami getting fucked because of the whole Italian Senate Tifa Lockhart incident. But yeah, right away, nothing about this is toxic. Again, just like a previous, like that censorship chapter, what about this is toxic? Like, you tell me, because I can't see any of this. And the reason why none of this is toxic is... Actually, yeah, I can't tell you the reason why... I can't tell you that, because again, I don't see anything toxic here. You'd have to tell me what is toxic. Yeah, like, the first example, the Ching Hair dude getting fucked for because his friend, he shared like some closed beta footage with his friend, and his friend backstabs him and leaks the video anyway, and people are able to trace it back to Ching Hair, and he gets fucked for it and gets fined 78k or 78k USD, or the equivalent in Chinese yuan, or Chinese yuan, however you pronounce it. It's fucked up, right? I'm sure Ching Hair trusted that dude to not leak that shit, or to not be an asshole, cause yeah, that was a very expensive mistake. But at the same time, he still breached NDA. So like, what the fuck did you expect, right? He shouldn't have shared that with anybody, no matter how much he trusts his friends, right? especially with in this case, because it's a Genshin, beta. It's Genshin beta footage, and at the time, because I remember hearing about this at the time, I think, because it was a while back. It was like year 1 or year 2, so it was within the first year or so of Genshin's life cycle, when it still had a ton of players. Like, it was still like riding high on its initial wave of popularity, right? I mean, Genshin's still popular now, but like things have kind of settled so far. Kind of, not really though, especially with what's going on in the Chinese server right now. But we'll get to that later. Chinghair at the end of the day breached NDA, right? And he shouldn't have trusted his friend. He should just kept it to himself, but he didn't. And he made that judgment call to decide to try to trust his friend, to not leak that shit and get him in trouble. But he did. And like, honestly, personally, like, you kind of had to see that coming, right? Because me knowing Genshin and the community, right? Especially, I bring up the how things were like 3 years ago, because people, like, because Genshin was at its peak then, obviously, people wanted to know what was coming up next, right? They wanted their clairvoyance. They wanted to know exactly what was headed their way, because everybody loves talking about new stuff. It's just how humans are. We want to know about what's up and coming, because that's what's exciting, right? Everything that we already have in the game is like shit we already know, or at least we think we know. We want to know about the good shit, right? Future content, future characters, what they can do, anything involving that. And so, yeah, man, he shouldn't have trusted his friend, because that sort of clout, especially with how rampant data, beta leaks used to be. I mean, they still are, but especially at the time, it was just on another level. People just leaking everything they could get their hands on, pretty much, because of how popular Genshin is. And again, people did it for clout, right? Genshin's such a huge game. People, and you know how people are on social media. People will potentially do anything just for a viral tweet on fucking Twitter. So, yeah, like, that sort of power fucking corrupts people, man. I don't like, it's kind of unfair to say that he should have seen this coming, but at the same time, you really should have seen this coming, right? So, nothing about this is toxic. It's just some dude who unfortunately made a bad judgment call, but still, at the end of the day, he ended up doing something he shouldn't have, which was breach NDA and share footage with somebody, would share footage with his close friend, which he shouldn't have done, no matter how close that friend was. And so, yeah, the video itself here, Visual Venture, specifically brings up the detail that MiHoYo fined him, like, again, $78,000 or the equivalent of, and brings up the detail that fine is the same amount that, like people that are accused of espionage, right, against the state, against the CCP, or against China, are accused of, right? And if they're found guilty, usually they probably are. And so, yeah. However, that's not more. I think that's more of a way for MiHoYo. MiHoYo was just basically trying to send a message, right? They wanted to make an example out of Chinghair, and like, absolutely fuck them, so that way they can try to get other people to not do that same thing, right? Breaching your NDA is bad. Don't leak shit. The horrible irony is that it still happens anyway, and it got so bad that MiHoYo eventually just kind of threw their hands up and started drip marketing shit on their own anyway, which again is fucking hilarious, just very morbidly so. So it's like Chinghair got fucked for like almost no reason. It's just, again, just an unfortunate situation. It's just like, I'm gonna give Chinghair the benefit of the doubt that it was just an innocent, honest mistake, and that in a different timeline, his friend didn't betray him and kept it to himself, and maybe in that timeline he wouldn't have had to deal with a fucking $78,000 fine that he couldn't end up paying. But unfortunately, that's not the timeline we live in. You shouldn't breach NDA no matter what. Right? So, it's like, again, it's not toxic, it's just, what the fuck did you expect? Moving on to the next example about the data breaches. Yeah, I don't see much. I don't see how that's toxic either. Like, I don't need to tell you guys that there are like digital ransom groups out there, like they make a living off of breaching data of big companies and then holding that data ransom and demanding payment. Right? If you don't want us to leak this data, pay us or meet these demands that we make. Blah blah blah. There are people who make a living off that, I'm sure. And so like data breaches on their own, yes, they happen or at least they used to happen a lot to MiHoYo. Again, I don't know if it's still that way. Possibly, might be. I mean, we're still getting a whole shit ton of leaks, even 3 years later. 3 years later. So, how much do they really improve their data security? I wonder. Maybe they actually did improve it. I don't know. I'm not actually up to date with that actually. So, perhaps somebody in the comments can enlighten me on that. I could be wrong there, but no, the whole like data breach thing, that itself is not toxic, at least not to me. The video also gives an example of, or gives the anecdote of that one 4chan dude, some dude on 4chan who decided to try to breach Hoyo versus like servers or whatever, data breach them or whatever, and he did, and he basically he basically taunted MiHoYo, saying that, yeah, your data security fucking sucks. Like, I could do this in my sleep, basically. And, like, thanks for all the artwork. See ya, right? Too bad you couldn't make an art book out of this. Well, to be fair, they still couldn't. People still buy it. So it's like, don't know why he had to bring that up. But anyways, again, another tangent. But yeah, for that example specifically, it has the potential to be toxic, but I want to know that 4channer's intent. And unfortunately, I checked. I think I checked the video, the part of this video where they go over it. I think I can actually fast forward to it. Let's see, data breaches. Yeah, right here. I read through this paragraph. It just details like what or how MiHoYo's like data security is bad, but it doesn't mention his intent, and that's what I want to know. What was his intent for data breaching MiHoYo in the first place? Was it to intentionally harm them? Right? Did he go do this data breach specifically to detriment MiHoYo in some way? Like, for example, he mentions how he stole a lot of their official art or whatever, and now everybody can have it free, as opposed to MiHoYo being able to make an art book out of it and make money off that, which again they could still do anyway. But it doesn't, like, yeah, that's what I want to know again. Did he want to specifically harm MiHoYo in some way, either financially or whatever? Or did he just do it for fun? Like, knowing people on 4chan, a lot of those motherfuckers just do shit because it's funny. They just do it for the meme. They're bored one weekend. They're like, oh, they either get the idea to do something dumb, or maybe their friends online, fellow 4chaners, so it's be like, hey, what would be funny? It'd be funny if you did this. And they're like, oh yeah, sure, bet. And they go grab a bottle of beer from the fridge, sit down, crack open the cold one, and get started working on it. And lo and behold, hey, shit, it works. It's like, well, I'm here, I might as well take this. Might take this, right? I need to know the intent. Because again, if the intent was malicious, right? This dude went in with the explicit goal of harming MiHoYo, either financially or steal something from them, which I suppose is the same thing. Then it is toxic. Yes. Then it would be toxic. If not, if he just did it just for shits and giggles, then honestly, no, it's not toxic. This is just some motherfucker who was like, oh yeah, let's just try doing this. To be fair though, I can see if you do still consider that toxic, because again, it still harms people. Yes. I think that I do agree there is some level of there may be some level of toxicity there, but it's not, even if that were the case, that's not as anywhere near as toxic as some of these other examples we've seen, like harassing voice actors, sending them death threats or whatever, putting a bomb threat in an offline Genshin festival in Seoul or whatever. This is not that bad, not that level of bad. And again, data breaches happen all the time. People do that shit for money. Like, it's nothing. It's not personal. It's just business. We just happen to target Jews, so give us money, or we're gonna leak all this shit. So, again, I don't really feel that this is toxic, but at least for this video, for the data breach part, yeah, I can see, now that I've elaborated on a little bit more on my own here, I can see how it is toxic, or how it can be toxic, but for me, the important part is the intent. It has to be the intent for me. Otherwise, it's just some dipshit doing something you probably shouldn't, but, you know, at least nobody is getting physically harmed here. Some other examples throughout this video could have been, or could have done. And lastly, the censorship part, or the shitakami part. I think this is a good freeze frame. Actually, no. Let's go over to something else here. This caption is pretty good to freeze frame on. So yeah, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, I know Shitakami's works. And yeah, he was, as someone who consumes NSFW content, that's putting it lightly, or that's putting it euphemistically, if that's even a word. I was familiar with Shitakami's work, so unfortunately, this event does, you know, somewhat impact me personally. It's kind of sad to see. And this would, like, if that dude who hacked the Italian Senate or whatever, you know, took control of their Zoom call, like, decided not to play that Shangling clip, then yeah, we would still have Shitakami still be able to make banger NSFW content for Genshin Impact. Unfortunately, again, for the rest of us, we don't live in that timeline. So I pray that Shitakami, you know, doesn't have to spend too long in jail. But from the details that this video goes over, he's probably super fucked. Yeah, it's, I don't know, man. We may never hear from him again. That's how serious this shit is. Yeah, no. This is bad for him. And I pray that nothing bad, like, actually physically happens to him, and that, you know, he can somehow recover from this. Likely, though, he's probably fucked for good. To elaborate more on, like, the context of this, yeah, like, this kind of goes under the whole censorship part, obviously, like porn, because, you know, pornography kind of goes against, you know, the CCP's whole, like, public morale shit, or public morals codes, or whatever they've got over there. Some Westerners, or like some overseas people, may not really understand that, like it's just porn, like, what? Like, even if they disagree with the content, like the nature of the content, right? Like, you know, free speech and all that, like, why can't, it's just porn, like, what the hell is that gonna do, right? But no, this has more to, because it was such an internationally known event, right? The Italian Senate thing with Tifa, and unfortunately Shangling, because it was such a high profile event, it was considered by the Chinese, or at least the, you know, CCP supporters that are called Little Pinks, they considered it to be a very embarrassing moment, right? Like, it's like damaging the reputation of China and the CCP, because the CCP teaches, or tries to teach their people, that anything that's against the CCP, or anything that's a slant against the CCP, or anything that is a slant against China, right? They try to equate themselves with all of China. That's what they teach. So yeah, anything that happens to offend either China as a country, or the party, the Chinese Communist Party itself, they do not tolerate, right? And so yeah, this unfortunately kind of fell under that umbrella of oh, this offends the Chinese Communist Party, and so Shitakami got fucked. So that's why that happened. Again, unfortunate that it had to happen. As a not safe for work content consumer, if you want to call me that, Shitakami's loss is a huge fucking blow. Not only that, but that's all. It also, obviously, the video also mentions it itself. It also scared a lot of other Chinese NSFW artists into either like silence, or just, because I know a couple of Chinese Pixiv artists that straight up just deleted all of their content. You can't find their content anymore, at least not off Pixiv, unless like somebody happened to like save their work online and they have it up on like Sandpanda or something like that, or somewhere else. I don't know. But yeah, quite a few of them just straight up deleted everything to basically just cover their tracks, right? to make sure that that doesn't happen to them. But yeah, it's shaken the Chinese NSFW community, or like the NSFW content community, very hard. And yeah, what I will say is that honestly, they kind of should have like prepared for this to be in the beginning. I actually don't know how low key Shirakami himself or themselves wanted to keep it, right? Because we know that his Patreon was making massive bank. He was an extremely popular NSFW artist, and you know, him making NSFW content at Genshin obviously propelled him to overseas popularity, because he even had a Twitter account too. Twitter's a Western platform, so you know, he was probably VPNing to, you know, America or somewhere else, like I don't know, Taiwan, Japan, somewhere. So they probably got him on that too. If we're gonna be honest, like how do you have a Twitter account? Like how do you have Patreon? These are Western websites. But anyways, yeah, like I do want to know how low key he tried to make it. Like if he was like not trying to keep it low key at all, right? If he was just trying to like, if he was trying to build his career as an NSFW artist online as much as he could, and he wasn't like trying to be subtle about it, then yeah, that he kind of deserved that. Well, actually, no, not even deserved. Fuck that shit. Like it's understandable that he got caught the way he did. Like people were able to backtrack it to him, right? The Shangling clip that was played at the Italian Senate. But like if he tried like keeping everything low key, like if he did everything he could to like kind of be under the radar, not draw the attention of anybody in China, especially not the law enforcement, then and he still got caught anyway, then I that's just unfortunate. I at that point I don't know what you do other than just leave China entirely, right? To avoid getting fucking purged. So it's just unfortunate. That being said though, is it toxic? No, because again, this falls under the category of Chinese censorship, and again, these situations in and of themselves are not toxic, but and if you wanted to call them toxic, then you're basically calling the CCP toxic, which again, you would be right. That would be accurate. But like I don't think that's what the video is trying to say. I think that the video is trying to like use these examples of Genshin drama and like paint them as toxicity. No, these are not toxic. These are not examples of toxicity. It's drama, not toxicity. These are very different things. And as I've, you know, analyzed so far throughout this video, so the video so far has quite a few examples of Visual Venture confusing drama with toxicity. I mean, I hope it's an honest mistake, but something tells me that it's probably, you know, blatant, you know, ignorance here. Or like, you know, blatant twisting of the truth, I guess. Maybe the truth is going a little bit too hard there. But yeah, he's calling something by another name that it shouldn't be. Like these are two, like they're similar, but they're still two very distinct things: toxicity and drama. Like drama can involve toxicity, but not all toxicity. Well, you know, not all drama is necessarily toxic. They're two very, you know, at the end of the day, they're two very distinct things, at least in my opinion. But yeah, I believe this. Hopefully, I'm not missing anything. This was a kind of a long chapter, so there was a lot to take in here. If you guys watch it yourselves, again, please watch this video on your own, because I'm not watching it here, obviously. Okay, so second to last chapter. I think we're on chapter what, 9? No, 8. Sorry, 9 is the last one. Okay, so chapter 8, titled "The Worst Job." This one goes over. Let's see if we get the freeze frame, Miss Janice here. So, overall, even though it focuses on Miss Janice here, or it opens with Miss Janice, who was appointed as the global PR manager MiHoYo, this chapter mainly goes over the absolute debacle that was Genshin Impact's first anniversary on the overseas server. So, I think this event was like its reputation precedes it. A lot of people have heard about this, even they have no idea, even if they don't really play Genshin or don't really deal with it on a regular basis like some of us do, because it was just that well known, or that it's just that infamous. So essentially, just to summarize, when Genshin Impact first hit its, when Genshin Impact hit its first anniversary, players were expecting, like at least the more involved players were expecting there to be like some grand celebration, right? Freebies and free like in-game giveaways, like free gems and shit like that. Like anniversary exclusive events and whatnot, what have you. Unfortunately, we didn't get anything like that. It was just it function like, yes, MiHoYo like marketed it as like, oh hey, it's our first anniversary, but functionally in game, nothing really happened. It was like basically just any other day on Genshin. Yeah. And so that didn't go very well with a lot of players. Because the thing you have to understand is that Genshin Impact is a gacha game. We all know this. Most of us know what gacha games are, right? However, most gacha games, actually not most, all gacha games, usually all gacha games, celebrate their anniversary. As they should, because anniversaries, it's like your birthday, right? Humans have birthdays. Like, you want to celebrate your birthday, right? Your birthday is a pretty momentous occasion. You should celebrate. It's the day you were born. So yeah, it should be something you celebrate. People treat gacha game anniversaries quite similarly, actually. It's the day that these games first launched. And right, and given how important or given how big of an influence that gacha games have in a lot of people's lives, the people who play these kinds of games, yeah, anniversary events are very important, right? Not just like sentimentally, but also they're great ways for these gacha games to kind of like revitalize their player base, right? Make a big deal, like promote their games again. Like, hey, it's our first anniversary, right? Come back and it's a way for them to not only get old players who may have dropped the game or stopped playing as much back, but also get new players. Right, that's our first anniversary. Come see what we've improved so far. Come see all the content that we've added to the game ever since you last played it. That sort of thing, right? It's a great way for gacha games, like a best way basically, for gacha games to get more people playing again, either for the first time or again, either or. And to make a whole lot of money, because right, most gacha games, whenever they have an anniversary event, they usually put like a new character on banner, right? This is our anniversary character. Come roll for them, right? They're pretty cool, usually. And so, yeah, anniversary events. The point I'm trying to make here is that this sort of event, just these kinds of events in general, these are supposed to be very hype, very exciting, very rejuvenating events that are good for these games. It gives people, reassesses people's willingness to keep playing, and gives them a little bit another extra push to keep them going, still playing, sticking with Genshin Impact or any gacha game for that matter. And yet Genshin didn't do it, right? We all know this. Genshin Impact did not bother doing any sort of anniversary event at all. And so yeah, this happened. It is the second biggest example of toxicity that the Genshin Impact player base or community has produced in Genshin history. I say second biggest because right now, apparently, hilariously, in a very fucked up way, because I'm just morbid like that, the same incident or the same situation is apparently happening over in China right now on the Chinese Genshin servers or their related social media platforms. Yeah, like I believe, from what I understand, like multiple Genshin Impact official social media platforms, on like, say for example, Bilibili, Douyin, and others, they've lost like literal millions of followers, and that's pretty bad. Again, if you guys want to look up if you want to look up what's going on right now, I'm sure there are videos on YouTube that are already kind of documenting it, because I've already seen quite a few of them already, or at least they pop up in my recommended feed. But yeah, I'm sure you can watch those videos and get like a better picture of what exactly is going on over there. But essentially, it's basically the overseas first anniversary Genshin drama happening again in China this time, 2 years later, which again I find that morbidly hilarious, But again, that's mainly because I'm a jaded motherfucker. I still find it funny though, but that the fact that it happened again, understandable somewhat, but still funny, still fucking hilarious. So yeah, that's the main thing that this video goes over, and how unfortunately Miss Janice Teo here just she had the absolute worst timing as far as like PR managers go. Probably like she joined right as apparently right as first anniversary happened, and she had to deal with all the fucking nuclear fallout that happened that came out of first anniversary. So I feel so bad for Miss Janice here. She did not deserve this at all. A lot of these people did not. Most of these people did not, obviously. But yeah, yeah, and Janice is part of that list too, obviously. She just had the worst timing known to man, as far as, again, PR managers go. And I'm sorry that this happened to her. There's nothing really more I can say. I'm sure the shit that she had to endure, all the fucking, insults and harassment that she had to deal with as a result of first anniversary, Genshin, was just horrible. So hopefully she's doing better now wherever she is. Like, I don't blame her for leaving miHoYo after this, and just not dealing with any entertainment industry related PR shit for a while. Yeah, I do not blame her. I sincerely hope she's doing better now, like 2 years on. Cause yeah, nobody fucking deserves this. Yeah. There's nothing bad there's no critique here. This had to be mentioned, and it's good that this is like one of the last examples that this video demonstrates or mentions, because yeah, this was, again, at least until whatever's going on in China right now, or the past couple of weeks, it happened. Up until then, the first anniversary drama was the single worst example of Genshin Impact community toxicity. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And again, only topped by whatever the fuck is happening in China right now. However, I will mention one thing. This is not a critique, but one thing. This video does mention that Genshin disgruntled, unhappy Genshin players were spamming the Chi Fallen sticker. There is apparently a story in and of itself behind this too. I can't explain it because I'm not very familiar with it myself. I just think that people spamming the Chi Fallen sticker is just funny. But again, I'm just a jaded asshole. So I encourage you guys to look up online or have friends explain it to you if they know what happened. The story behind a Chi Fallen, because this video obviously doesn't go over it. It didn't need to be fair, but do look up the story behind the Chi Fallen. It'll give you more context about the Genshin Impact first anniversary drama overall as well. So, if you want to, of course. If that's too much autism for you, then do what you want to. But yeah, believe that's the majority of that. Yeah. All right, last chapter, and we're an hour and a half later. We're here at the end, and I'm still probably gonna stick around for another half an hour, to be honest. Anyways, last stretch here, or one of our last stretches. So, Chapter 9, it's titled, a Die-Hard Fan's Dreadful Behavior, or something like that. So, this part of the video entails, mainly, again, Chinese player drama, where a couple of very messed up Chinese players who fucking hated Wanderer, probably still do, to be honest, they tried stirring up drama about Wanderer, and tried getting they didn't, because they straight up just didn't like Wanderer. They fucking hated him. And they tried getting his writers in jail. They tried calling the cops on them. They basically tried swatting them. But when that didn't work, they started going ballistic and started posting and sharing videos of cats basically getting tortured, harmed, and unfortunately sometimes killed as well. Don't look up those videos. They're pretty nasty. Especially if you're a cat lover, please don't watch those videos. Yeah, and then when somebody kind of like exposed this on like Reddit, for example, they went after the person who leaked the shit to us foreign players or the foreign community, and they fucking doxed them. So yeah, that is definitely toxicity. So let's talk about it. Yeah, allow me to give you some more context to this. So first of all, why Wanderer, and why Wanderer? Yeah, English is hard again. I love stumbling over my words. Why Wanderer basically? And why did they go after him? And like, how the fuck? Where's the connection between Wanderer and like cats? Right? Why did they show those cat videos? Those messed up cat videos? First of all, at the time when this happened, Wanderer had a couple of, not just Wanderer himself, or Scaramouche, for those of you who know him by that name. At the time, on like social media, both overseas and in China, I believe Genshin, or I believe MiHoYo or Genshin, shared a few pieces of artworks of 4 different Genshin characters, basically being turned into cats, right? They furried them. Cats, like in Wanderer's case, it was like a green cat, a teal cat, wearing Wanderer's hat, and being a little annoying prick and all that. I think Kecking was also a part of that, Kuching. So yeah, that's how that explains the cat videos and why those fucked up Chinese people were trying to use cat murder videos to like protest Wanderer. So that's that. Additionally, Chinese gacha game players, or perhaps just some portion of the Chinese online community in general, they are infamous for their parasocial behavior towards gacha waifus. And unfortunately, they can become very violent doing it. A separate example that I can make here that I think is pretty relevant is a previous incident regarding MiHoYo themselves again, but for a different game called Honkai Impact 3rd. It's their quote darling game. It's the game that they care most about. And I think this was probably like last year, 2 years ago or something. I forget exactly when this happened, but at one point, MiHoYo released like an anniversary video, exclusively for their foreign player base, like their overseas player base. And that video basically portrayed Honkai Impact characters, in like bunny girl outfits or something like that. Like basically pure fan service, right? Pure fan service for their overseas players. But they didn't give it out. It was an exclusive video, so that means that the Chinese players didn't get it. Something like that. Again, please look up this incident yourselves if you guys want the full picture, because I'm only going off of what was told to me, or what was explained to me. So the some Chinese players, find out about this, right? Because again, some Chinese players have access to the internet outside of China because VPNs and whatnot. And they share it. They break the news to their fellow Chinese players, and they get fucking pissed, right? How dare you give how dare you give foreigners something you're not even going to give us? Like, that's something that you didn't even give us, right? Like, we're Chinese, you should care about us first, right? And to be fair, since they're a Chinese company, probably should have shared it with everybody. I'm a little bit confused why they had to make it exclusive for just the foreigners. To be completely fair. But yeah, that was a shit show. Unless there's like details here that I'm missing, which again I may be. So feel free to correct me on anything I'm getting wrong here. But eventually, what ended up happening was MiHoYo was forced to apologize, remove the video from their official like overseas media accounts or whatever, and they even compensated the Chinese players for this transgression. And the worst part, the foreign players got literally nothing. Like, they didn't even do anything wrong, and they still got nothing. So yeah, pretty fucked up situation all around, to be honest. Um, but yeah, I say that as a pretty relevant example of how vicious Chinese players can get in their, you know, in their treatment of their beloved gacha waifus or whatever. Um, and so specifically, so leading off that, or going off that, specifically for Wanderer, there's also, again, I hate to become political again, but there's also a political edge to this Wanderer drama specifically, because for those of you guys who are familiar with Genshin Impact, Wanderer comes from Inazuma. Guess what Inazuma is based off of in real life? Japan. And so, the CCP, especially in recent years, but the CCP has always pushed a very anti-Japanese sentiment to their population. Yeah, right. Because obviously, historically speaking, Japan did some pretty nasty things to China, and the CCP has not forgotten. At its core, like, obviously, just to go off on a tangent here, yeah, they should care about it, obviously. It was, like, for example, historical events like the rape of Nanking, or Nanking, I forget what the exact name was. But, yeah, like, historical events like those, yeah, those are horrible. And, there's a lot of things that happened where, historically speaking anyway, Japan has done some things where, like, other Asian countries like South Korea, Korea in general, and China kind of want Japan to address, to put it lightly. But at the same time, the CCP has been pushing it so hard has been pushing it very hard to their people as basically as part of their propaganda agenda, as propaganda basically. And so, yeah, coming back to Genshin real quick, Wanderer is from Inazuma, which makes him Japanese. And so the specific war criminal behavior, yeah, that makes sense, because yeah, they were trying to get his writers in jail. Basically, they were essentially accusing Wanderer's writers and people who worked on Wanderer in Genshin of being anti-CCP, essentially. And I already explained before that the nature of that, right? And unfortunately, this is kind of a common tactic that these Chinese netizens can employ whenever they're dealing with things that people do, or whenever they're dealing with people who have done things that they feel is offensive, right? Especially if it has any like anti-CCP edge to it, or slant to it, like I said earlier. So yeah. They involve, they try to involve the police and the CCP by citing anti-CCP allegations against whoever it is that they want to try to fuck over. So, which is why this happened with Scaramouche's writer, or at least they tried to. Thankfully, it didn't work. And so, yeah, this behavior is extremely toxic. Nothing, can't say anything against that, and can't deny that. However, I will say that this is definitely more of a result of China's current socio-political atmosphere. I mean, not just current, it's been like this for basically the entire time that the CCP's been in power. And yeah, and it's not necessarily because of MiHoYo or Genshin itself, because this shit happens in other fandoms and communities in China as well, not just in Genshin. People try to sick the cops. People try to swat other people in China all the time for like shit that they find like, oh, this offends me because it's going against the CCP. You're not patriotic. What do you mean? How dare you insult China and all that fucking political drivel and shit like that. So, but yeah, that's the context here. So definitely an example of toxicity, but keep this context in mind, right? All right, so that should go over all the chapters. Unfortunately, I didn't have a better freeze frame. I should have had like something like this or something. But yeah, it should cover everything. Hopefully there wasn't like something like important that I forgot about or missed. Again, if you feel like I missed something, make sure to bring it up in the comments, and I'll try to respond to them if I am watching them. Might be a little busy, so might be a little bit tough for me. So yeah, let's go into my closing remarks. Hopefully this won't take too long. A couple things that I want to address, or a couple things that I want to talk about that have been brought up in this video several times. The first one is the silence on MiHoYo's part, right? Like especially during the censorship chapters, the chapters that talk about censorship in Genshin, either in-game or whatever happened to the what happened to the NDA breachers, the NSFW artist, and not even data breacher. Data breacher didn't. Nothing happened to him, but yeah, those the people who got censored basically. I think I can explain that. I think. You be the judge of how good this explanation is. But from my perspective, I can explain somewhat at least why MiHoYo feels so like silent, right? Why they're not saying anything. Why they don't seem to be addressing a lot of these concerns that we players have. A lot of us players who play Genshin on a regular basis, and we're big fans of the game, and we want to see the game improve, right? Why it feels like they're not responding to anything that we ask of them at all. In my opinion, it is because like the top level executives and decision makers at MiHoYo, over at MiHoYo, like Kaveh and everybody who his the top of the corporate ladder over there with him. I just think that they're just too busy. They're likely too busy to personally manage everything about their game, right? Remember, Genshin is a huge game. It's the biggest gacha game in the world. It's one of the biggest games in the world, period. So it's just going to be so tough for them to be able to micromanage everything about their game. Mostly, they're most likely mainly concerned with just like the core operations of the game and like making the top level decisions about like what direction Genshin takes, blah blah blah. So like it's understandable, right? They simply don't have the bandwidth. Is the word I'm trying to use here, the bandwidth to manage everything about their game at once. So what they have to do is they have to allocate responsibilities and tasks regarding the daily operations of Genshin Impact or whatever else that they can't handle on their own to their subordinates, to everybody else throughout the company, right? And especially with us foreign players, us overseas players, the brutal reality of this is that MiHoYo is a Chinese company. They're based out of Shanghai. Hoyoverse, it technically controls the overseas servers, but MiHoYo still calls the shots, right? All the direction, all the top level orders are coming from Shanghai or wherever MiHoYo happens to be based out of. It's Kaveh and his folks, right? And so when it comes to like feedback, criticism, critique of whatever it is that MiHoYo happens to do, when it comes to like sponsors or offline events, event collaborations or whatever else it may be, like in-game stuff, MiHoYo on MiHoYo's core, right? Kaveh and company, they probably don't even manage that themselves, right? They most likely have either their subordinates handle all that shit on their own, and they just give them instructions like just do what you see fit, right? Just like don't bother us with this, just do your job, right? Because we're too busy, right? Or whatever it is, or however they handle it. I don't work at MiHoYo, so I wouldn't know. I'm just guessing here. But yeah, I feel like that's what's going on here. Like I think one thing I can say, that one thing that I can cite as like evidence, if you want to call it that, is that we had one instance, we had a bit of drama about how either, I think it was Genshin, maybe it was Star Rail, I forget. It was either Star Rail or Genshin, where like voice actors apparently weren't getting paid for their work in like one of those two Hoyoverse games. And so voice actors and actresses were like kind of voicing their concerns on Twitter about like, hey, we haven't been getting paid, like what's going on here? And so yeah, eventually a lot of people, thankfully, on Twitter was able to they were able to blow it up a little bit and make it a big deal. Thankfully, I don't think anybody was toxic about that. Hopefully not, anyway. And so yeah, eventually MiHoYo saw what was going on and they stepped in and hopefully they fixed that issue. But the reason why it was happening was because they hired a third party talent agency or whatever that was supposed to be in charge of hiring voice talents, right, getting them to work on the game, and then be responsible for the payouts, right, for the payments, their compensation. But apparently they either that third party talent agency or whoever they were either forgot to pay them or they deliberately weren't paying them, whatever happened there. But thankfully, hopefully it was fixed, or that issue was addressed. And yeah, but yeah, that kind of tells me that MiHoYo works with either third-party agencies out here in the West or wherever else in Japan or whatever, or at the very least they have underlings that they have. Underlings kind of sounds weird, but subordinates basically, who handle the more everyday, daily turnover, daily operations shit, whatever you want to call it. And they don't concern themselves with that because they just don't have the time to. Genshin is just too big of a game. They have too much staff. They have too much going on. They're too concerned with how to what the future of Genshin is, so they can prepare for future content, all that sort of stuff. I'm sure they have way more other responsibilities that they have to take care of, on top of having to worry about the CCP fucking breathing down their necks because they are the developers of the world's biggest gacha game, especially in China. Well, I assume it is. So I mean, shit, bro. Look at the last anniversary live stream with Dawe, right? Because Dawe doesn't usually show up for a lot of these streams. He only shows up for the really important ones. Certainly for Lantern Rite, because Lantern Rite is basically Chinese New Year. So yeah, of course he'd show up. But yeah, I think the last 2 times we saw him on stream, maybe last time before Lantern Rite this year was what, anniversary or something? I don't know. I forget. But yeah, the last 2-3 times we've seen Dawe on stream, his hair is fucking gray as hell. I think I remember. At least I think I do. I think this was the case. Back when Genshin first released, and Dawe showed up on stream, right, to mark the beginning of the debut of Genshin Impact or whatever. He had a full head of black hair. Nice black hair. Now he's aged so much, man. The past 3 years have not been kind to him. So I can't imagine the kind of shit that he's had to deal with in the past 3, going on 4 years now. I mean, between incidents like that one crazy ass fan who tried fucking stabbing him or something like that, and whatever else he's had to deal with, I don't know if I'm. I think it's safe to say that it's kind of hard to be envious of him, other than him being the CEO of the company that manages the world's biggest gacha game. But I mean, shit, man. It's rough. I'd imagine it's very rough for him. So yeah, that's why these are the reasons why I say that MiHoYo is likely too busy to manage concerns, too busy to concern themselves with what they consider to be tangential issues, as in, for example, the concerns about overseas players or whatever. And it sounds harsh. That sounds harsh. Or I'm making MiHoYo out to sound like assholes right now, but that's not really my intention here. That's just what happens. That's just, I think, what's going on. And again, it's not personal. It's just business. So, unfortunately, obviously, a lot of foreign overseas players don't understand that, and that's why they have behaved a lot of time. That's why they behaved the way they have. But yeah. I can at least explain the silence. Again, though, that doesn't mean... I do agree that doesn't mean that MiHoYo should just completely ignore us, right? They should try to, even if it's very difficult, they should try to at least make an effort to, listen to even us overseas players' concerns and not just pander to their home Chinese audience, right? I do think that they should favor, they should show a little bias for their Chinese players. They are a Chinese company after all, so it kind of makes sense that they treat their Chinese players better than everyone. especially with how much what is it, focus they give onto like Lantern Rite, for example, because Lantern Rite is the only event we've had other than like maybe a couple other events that have like genuine quote reruns, and even then it's not even a rerun. These are like new, like unique Lantern Rite events every single time, but it's at least a recurring theme, right? It's more than we can say about a lot of other events that we've had in Genshin that don't get reruns at all, or just recurring instances at all, right? So, yeah, it's not that I'm against MiHoYo being more biased for their home audience, but it would be nice if they could listen to us every once in a while too, you know? So yeah, that I think hopefully that was enough to address the whole like MiHoYo being silent thing. But again, at the same time, it would be nice if they actually went out of the way from time to time to be like, you know, to throw us foreign players a bone here and there too, from time to time, not all the time. Well, that would be nice too, but yeah, that's just how it is, unfortunately, and unfortunately, likely that'll not change. Not in the near future. maybe in the far future, but we're not there yet, obviously. So, another thing that I want to Another thing that I want to go over is yeah, just the fact that the bigger you are, the more toxic your community is. This is just what happens in any fandom, to be honest with you, right? It's very easy to look at Genshin, for example. Like, Genshin is an easy target with how big it is. But every community has, like, once it reaches a certain point, or a certain size, like, you're always going to have levels of toxicity. You're always going to have drama that comes out of your community, blah, 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 whatever, right? This shit it's just the way it is when it comes to the internet. And people being passionate for both the right and wrong reasons about games or whatever else that they care a lot about, right? You're gonna have instances like this. Yeah. So yeah, because Genshin is fucking huge, an international phenomenon, I think it's safe to say. Yeah, of course you're gonna have drama. Of course you're gonna have toxicity, and of course the toxicity is gonna be fucking bad in a lot of cases. But what I want to end this video with is, like, my biggest problems with this video, right? Ultimately, I think that this video is not a fair assessment of the Genshin community as a whole, because Visual Venture only focuses on the negativity that has come out of Genshin Impact. Now, to be fair, that's kind of the point of this video, especially with its title, right? The Toxic World of Genshin Impact. So, on the surface, you know, that's understandable. But, like, I've gone through the rest of his content. Like, I mean, we can take a look at his channel right now. Go to videos and look through it, right? So, like, as you can see from all these videos, I mean, just look at the thumbnails, man. Yeah. This is the kind of content that Mr. Visual Venture makes, right? They all have to do with, like, some negative side of, you know, some big community or some big, you know, fandom on the internet. Of course, there are some exceptions, like whatever this is. But yeah, it seems like that's how most of this is, right? He's even made a similar video that he made about Genshin for Minecraft, what, 8 months ago? I think he's done it for other games too, whatever this is. Gacha life, that's interesting. But yeah, like, it seems to me that this is his main form of content, which is just to focus on the negative side of a lot of these communities online, a lot of these fandoms online. And so, because of that, like, I know he's never gonna make a follow-up video that, you know, details the other side of Genshin Impact, of the Genshin Impact community. The side of Genshin Impact that's not toxic. The side of the Genshin Impact that is, you know, pretty decent and pretty okay. The good things that have come out of Genshin Impact. As a person, I like to be very fair or as fair as possible. I'm not perfect, obviously. I'm only human. But I strive to try to have like a, you know, a fair assessment of, you know, things that might happen on the internet, anything that, you know, any issue that happens to be relevant, right? I try to be fair. And part of being fair is to try to acknowledge all sides of an argument, or try to acknowledge all sides of a situation wherever possible, wherever it's relevant. So just personally, like, I already have a big problem with this video, especially as a Genshin player, because this video, especially with how it's titled, and especially with its content, paints Genshin Impact as nothing but a straight negative, right? Just nothing about Genshin is good. Its players are all shitty. They're all horrible people. Don't play Genshin Impact. Matter of fact, if I click on this video again, right, and we play the opening clip here, right, especially, what is it? Right here, yeah, this one. We'll just play the first opening seconds here.
Because at the end of the day, I think my biggest problem with this game comes down to purpose. And that is, there is no purpose to Genshin Impact.
This jazzy dude says there's no purpose to Genshin Impact. And I think the final clip he uses here at the beginning is, excuse me, not M-tashed. Trying to focus towards it. Yeah, starting with this clip.
Genshin
might get
is an
caught in the
amazing
beginning.
game that I can't recommend to anyone.
Yeah. Where that dude says Genshin's an amazing game that he can't recommend to anyone, right? These like I already at the very beginning of this video, this react video, I already told you guys my problems with these opening clips, and so now that I'm trying to tie it all together, these clips are even worse. They're even fucking worse. Right? Especially with with the context of me saying that this video is doing nothing but painting Genshin in nothing but a negative light. So, like, I don't like that at all. I really don't like that. Especially not as a Genshin player. Because obviously, since I play Genshin pretty religiously, I enjoy Genshin a lot. Yeah, this kind of affects me too. Don't you think? What else can I say here? Yeah, just to elaborate on that a little bit further, might be circling, like, might be beating a dead horse here, but allow me. Yeah, this video basically only serves to damage the reputation of Genshin as a game and its fans, because it only shows examples of toxicity that, you know, this game and its community has produced, and nothing else. So when people watch this video, and shit, man, this video has gotten almost 1 million views in a month, so a lot of people have watched this. A lot of these people who watch this video, that's the only thing that's going to take away from this. That, oh, Genshin bad, and the people who play Genshin are bad too, right? Which is, I think, what I already said. So yeah, I am beating a dead horse here. So I think I'll try to end with this, right? I think that the biggest irony of this video is that this video will be used as ammo, as ammunition, evidence at least, by people who don't like Genshin for whatever reason, right? Either people who don't play Genshin and just have a negative view of it already, or former Genshin players who have become disillusioned with the game, or the developers maybe, and they don't play it anymore and they don't like the game anymore, right? Whoever it may be, those kinds of people will now use this video as proof, as ammo, like I said, that as proof that they're going to show to other people as proof that Genshin is bad, that there's nothing good about Genshin Impact, right? And that you should avoid it, you know, at all costs. Right? Don't have anything to do with Genshin Impact. Just stay away from it entirely. Right? And the irony from that comes from the fact that is toxicity. Right? I mean, at the end of the video here, Visual Venture says, like, oh, you shouldn't do these things. Or he's trying to, you know, he's doing the obligatory content creator thing of trying to take the high ground, right? The moral high ground here of, yeah, don't do these things, or don't be toxic, blah blah blah. or whatever other bullshit that they say. But yeah, the biggest irony is that this video will be used by people who are trying to be toxic to other people who play Genshin. That's the biggest irony that I take away from this. And again, as I mentioned earlier, as I am a very jaded motherfucker, I find that morbidly hilarious, but for the wrong reasons. Yeah, that's my biggest problem with this video. However, there is exactly one thing that Visual Venture can do to fix everything, right? Fix all the issues that I have, that I've spent the last fucking 2 hours going over. And that is to change the title of this video from whatever it is now, the toxic world of Genshin Impact, to something more along the lines of the history of drama in Genshin Impact. Right then and there, it solves all my problems, because then with a title like that, that is a completely accurate title, because this video essentially was a history of like some of the worst examples of like, again, some of these examples weren't even toxicity. Oh yeah, that's right, because I want this dude to take the word toxic out of the title, or that'd be nice at least. Yeah, these are all examples of drama, but not necessarily toxicity, because like I said, toxicity and drama are similar, but they're not the same thing, at least not to me. So I feel that this is the one thing that he needs to do, that Visual Venture can do, to fix everything about this, everything that I've said about his video in my own React video, is to just change the title to the history of drama in Genshin Impact. That's it. He doesn't have to change this video at all, right? Because there's nothing wrong with the title at that point. This is in fact all drama that this video goes over, right? Some of it's toxicity, but all of it is drama. That would be a much more accurate title, and all the problems that I have with this not being toxicity or whatever would just melt away. But so yeah, it's like the easiest fix he could do. But obviously he didn't title his video like that because he more than likely felt that going with something like that isn't going to farm views, right? He's clearly titled this video "The Toxic World of Genshin Impact" in order to it's a clickbait title basically, to farm views, to get people to click on it, because toxicity in Genshin Impact, ooh, right? Juicy drama, juicy toxicity. So yeah. So because of that, because he decided to go with a title like this, what that tells me is that ultimately Visual Venture basically only picked Genshin Impact as a source of content that he can make a video out of, right? To make this video out of. Not because he actually plays the game or cares about it in any meaningful way. Maybe he's played Genshin Impact a little bit in the past because, especially back when it first launched, yeah, Genshin Impact was super popular. I mean, it got the normies to play it for a little bit, especially when, especially because Genshin Impact came out at the height of pandemic, overseas especially. But I highly doubt Visual Venture plays Genshin anymore, if he had in the past, right? He's, like I said, he's only picking on Genshin Impact because it's popular, and he knows a lot of people are going to click on this video. And to be fair, myself included. But at least I can make a video of my own and make my own content out of it, so he can go fuck himself. So yeah, I just want to leave one last comment here. I do consider my time having watched this video just on its own, not me making content out of this on my own here, to be a complete fucking waste of time. If I could, obviously, if I could get these 27 minutes back of my life that I spent watching whatever the fuck this was, I would try to. But again, it's not so bad because, again, I get to make content of my own out of it. Yeah, like, great production quality, right? Editing is on point, but like, bro, I'll try. I'm probably gonna stay away from a lot of his other videos from now on, unless there's a video of his that's like actually relevant to me again somehow. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, like, Visual Venture is just a knockoff Johnny Harris. So, and I'll just end the video there, and that's all I have to say. So I hope that you guys enjoyed watching me or listening to me rant basically for the past over 2 hours. God damn. But yeah, I hope this video was at least entertaining for you guys listening. And yeah, I hope that this video is able to shine some light and maybe some more context and maybe refute some things that this video said that perhaps some of you guys may care about. So yeah, that'll do it for me. Thanks for watching. Again, thank you so much for, if you guys have reached all the way to the end here, thanks so much for listening to me ramble for like the past 2 hours, as I sometimes tend to do, unfortunately. But yeah, appreciate you guys. And thanks for watching. Peace.